This is Car Guys New England, your YouTube channel for anything automotive.
You bad, cause it's bit bad. She want me the bag, like chips at the front. Lift up, I'm fly like a pelic in my bed. I like get my way, hella quick. They get the hook up on the elephant cut. My trunk, yeah, it's in the front. Of course, it's in the back. This a big, this a real big difference. You just want a club. I just need them racks. You just want a party, so I just want to rock.
This is Jay with Car Guys New England, and today is part 2 of working on the Lowrider Caprice. In the last video, we talked about removing the batteries, which is done. Now I'm getting to the step where I'm going to start rewiring things. One thing that this setup does not have is room for the extra solenoids for the way I'm going to wire this. The way this car was previously wired, it had 2 banks of 4 batteries at 48 volts each. And then it was crisscross wired on the solenoid, so it would draw from both banks if you lifted the front and both to the, if you lifted the rear, which was good for saving battery power. But what we're going to end up doing is the switch box, if you use the switches on that, it's still going to be 48 volts. However, if I use my hop switch, it's going to be 96 volts. But what I need to do is add this this piece of angle iron to mount my solenoids, and you can see I've already started to clean up the metal there. So I'm going to get that in place. I'm going to weld it in, and then at that point I can start installing the solenoids. Once those come in, I ordered those, but also I'm going to clean up the rack so it doesn't look all crusty and rusty anymore, and we'll take it from there. And the angle iron piece is down for the 96 volt solenoids, and I'm just going to weld those up. I'm going to be pretty safe here. I'm actually going to use a wet towel underneath, just in case there's any sparks, and also I have a bucket of water here in case anything catches, because I am welding in my garage, which I really don't like doing, but I have no choice at the moment. But then I can start cleaning out the entire trunk after this is welded. I'll end up drilling holes in the rack so I can mount the solenoids, and then the next step would be wiring. And again, just to show you guys, this is the old wiring of the setup, so you can see it's 48 volts per bank of solenoids. But what I'm doing is I'm doing my option B, which basically those old solenoids will still tap off at 48, but then I'm going to continue in series. So that's going to keep bumping up 60 volts, yada, 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 until we hit 96 on those front pump solenoids. And that's where those will be going over there. All right, the solenoid bracket is installed. And now I need to figure out what I'm going to need for wires to wire this up. So let me figure that out. Okay, so I need 4 6-inch cables for the solenoids when I mount them. That makes sense since there'll be 6 solenoids. Each bank of 3 gets 2 of those 6-inch cables. So we're good there. 1, and I meant to say 6 foot, so that's going to connect the 48 volts over to the other bank over there. 2 4-foot cables, and that is for the 96 volt to the new solenoids, because one's going to have to reach over at this side. And then the other 4-foot of 48 volts to the other solenoid, so that's going to go over there instead of that little short cable, which I can reuse. And then 2 1-foot cables, and that's going to go from the new solenoids to the old solenoids, which already have connectors going to the motors, so we'll be good there. And this is the other fun item I'm adding to the car. This is the hop switch. So this will only activate the new solenoids that I'm putting in at 96 volts, and then also the front dumps. And what I'm going to do is put a 5 connector Amphenol male-female plug on this. I'm going to run the cable through the car, but I'll be able to disconnect this switch, because this would be like riding with a landmine next to you, especially at 96 volts. So I want to make sure that this is safe. The car will still be at 48 volts when I hit the switches on the switch box, but when I do any hopping, I'm going to do it on this particular switch. It'll be 96 volts, and it's going to give everybody a huge surprise. All right, so I ground down my welds. So what I'm going to end up doing is putting POR 15 on the battery trays and this part of the rack and everything, so it looks fresh and new. The existing solenoids will need to be checked with an ohm meter, and I'll just use a red Sharpie and crisscross it on the cover plate if they're bad. So I'll check those out another time, but next I want to get the POR 15 on here, so that'll be the next step. We have a can of POR 15, and I'm just going to brush this on to the rack just to clean things up a little bit, but let's see how this goes. So it says to clean it, prep it, then coat it. So I'm just going to clean off the rack with some glass cleaner or some alcohol or something like that, but let me find what I have, and then I'll get into this part. I'm just using invisible glass, and I'm just wetting a clean rag. I've already did the other side, so now I just got to do this side, clean it up, kind of degrease it, and then I can put on the POR 15. Okay, so I got the POR 15 open, got a drop light going on. Obviously the pumps are dirty, stuff like that, but I want to get the rack taken care of, so it looks good for when the new batteries are going to go in. But I'm going to start out just doing that bar, and we'll see how this comes out. Yeah, just brushes right on. Okay. The battery rack and the floor pan around this area has been done with the POR 15, so I'm going to let this dry, and pretty much that'll wrap up part 2. Part 3, I'm going to be wiring the solenoids and a few other steps as we get close to replacing these pumps with more modern pumps that I'm in process of building. Alright guys, so if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give this video a like. If you have questions or comments, be sure to comment down below. This is Jay with Car Guys New England. Until next time, take care.